Hello! Arrtx have just sent me another box of acrylic markers. This is set 60B. I already have 60A and I've done a video on it. Today we're going to check this one out. It's all wrapped in shiny plastic, so let's get into it! That's better, now it's not reflecting in the lights. It's such a pretty box. I really like the packaging on this one and the pinks and purples. Just in case you didn't see my previous video, here is the original set that I was sent. This is set 60A, which has the same design but in primary colours. And I have to say, I've been using these markers a lot, just in my sketchbook and all sorts of other little projects around the studio. So when they offered to send me the other set, I just had to say yes. I'm just rearranging them into order here, 60A and 60B. I wasn't sure if 60B has a whole new set of 60 colours, or if some of the colours are duplicates from the first set. I'm going to answer those questions today in this video. And of course I realised later that I had schmutz on the front of the box. It cleans up nicely though. You could just use a damp rag and it's fine. So here's what the first set looks like. They're acrylic paint marker pens. This first set comes with a mix of regular colours, metallics and neons. This one's a metallic pen. They also have brush nibs, which is really great because I do love a brush nib. And you don't have to prime these ones because the paint or ink is already in the nib, which is fantastic. The only pen which is kind of so-so is the white. It's not as opaque as I would like, but otherwise it's working well, and usually with a couple of layers it's okay. The black pen is absolutely fantastic, and I use this one all the time. You can see the nib is starting to look a little frayed there. But I have used this pen quite a lot, and it's showing no signs of running out yet, which is fantastic. So overall, I've been really happy with this set, and it has a nice selection of colours. I'll just quickly show you the palette I swatched out. You can see the metallics down there. I particularly love the gold and silver pens. Those ones are so useful. And I haven't really used the neons as much as the other pens in the set. But sliding over the new box, I'm really curious to see what colours are in here. And hopefully I'll also answer the question as to whether it's worth having one box or both boxes. On the back is a swatch chart, and I can already see that there is a white and a black in here. Those are duplicates from the first box. But I was fine with that because black and white are the two most used colours in the first set that I have. Sliding the lid off this box, I'll just put that to one side. We can see everything in here. On top of the pens is a business card and some sticky labels with numbers, and all of their social medias on the back there. If I have one tiny gripe, which happened in the first set as well, this little set of numbers needs to be stuck on all of the pens, and it takes ages to do that. I find that quite tedious, but some people may enjoy it. These larger stickers I think go on the sides of the pens, but I ended up putting mine on the swatch sheet, and I'm going to do the same for this. You could see them here. It's just easy to do that, and I have that piece of paper inside the box with the pens. I'll be doing the same for this set, and I'm using this A4 marker paper pad by Australian company Jazzart. It's a really smooth paper with a raincoaty vinyl feel, and I really like it for swatching paint markers. So I'll be doing all of that, and I need to organise that off camera. But first let's stick these onto the pens before I get them out of order, and then I don't know which is which. Now I'm assuming that the sticker order matches the order in which the pens come. That's what I went off anyway. I really wish there were colour names as well as numbers. But unfortunately we only have those little number stickers to go on. I'm just going to pull one out and have a look quickly. Yes, it looks exactly the same as the first set, and it is a brush nib. You can see the paint's already there, which is fantastic because I don't think anyone would enjoy having to pump 60 pens to get them all activated. I'm using my new palette knife to peel off some of these stickers. I think it was just actually easier to peel them off with my fingers. Oh my gosh, it was so awkward. You could see how fiddly they are. But I guess it could be a therapeutic experience, just peeling the stickers off and putting them on. Normally I love putting stickers on things, but I just find these ones very fiddly, and I'm also really impatient to use the pens, but the stickers have to go on first. And by the magic of video, those are done. The pens themselves do flop around a little bit in the pen stand, and it can be hard to tell which pen is in which line, but I figured it out eventually, and I've got all of my stickers on the swatch paper. And to answer the question of are there duplicates, yes there are. 36 of 60 are the same as in set A. I put little red dots beside them so you can see that. The ones that I've underlined are new colours that are not in the previous set, which is less than half. So if you were looking to buy both boxes in order to have 120 different colours, I'm afraid that's not going to happen. A lot of them are duplicates. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something to be aware of. Set A has the metallic and neon colours, which aren't included in Set B, and if you want a general set which does include a few metallics, then definitely go for Set A. But let's swatch out Set B and see what the colour palette looks like. As I'm swatching, I'll just read a bit more about these pens. They're available on Amazon and I'll link them in the description below so you can find them. From the descriptions it says that Set A is the standard set of colours, and then the set that I'm swatching out now is called Anime Colour. The 60 new colours gives you all you need for shading and colouring anything from skin tones, manga art, comic illustrations, cartoons and costume designs. This set provides more new colour shades for creativity. So there we go. I really wish I'd read that before I'd done my projects, because then I might have done something cartoonish, but you're going to see what I ended up doing with these pens. There are 2 new pinks in this set, which adds up to quite a lot of pinks in general. I wish there were a couple more reds, because there's really only number 28, which is a strong red, and 26 beside it is a lot more orange. I like the new blues that they've added, but it looks like there's only one more purple, and then the others were in the original set that I had as well. The paint comes out of the pen smoothly. I noticed a couple of them were a little bit dry when I first started using them, but then the paint started flowing properly after a few strokes on the page. This set has 3 extra browns, which I really like, and it also has quite a lot of new greens. Most of the colours in the set are very light or mid-tone, and there aren't a lot of darker colours, and I do wish that there was more of a value range with a few extra darker colours in there as well. C61 is the darkest green, and I wish there was a darker one than that, because you know I love a dark green. I do love the 3 new teal colours, those are absolutely gorgeous. And they've added a couple of neutral tones as well here, along with that really dark black. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of the palette? I like it, but as I said, it is missing a few deeper colours, which I think would make it an amazing set. These are just my own personal thoughts. You may have different ideas as to which colours you think are good in the set. I was trying to put these together to compare them, but both sets are in quite a different order, so I'll just kind of shuffle them around here so you can see what they look like. If I was to include anything from Set A into Set B, it would be the gold and silver pens, because I use those ones a lot, and I did find I was missing them when I was using the second box. I think the most important thing to take away from this video though is the fact that they are duplicate colours and it's not 120 different colours. This could be a deal breaker for some people, so I just thought I'd let you know that. But now it's time to focus entirely on Set 60B. My first project today is going to be in this Caran d'Ache colouring pad, which I bought recently and showed in a haul video. The paper is a fairly thick cardstock, it's very smooth, and I don't know that colour pencils are going to work very well on here, but I thought it might be a good surface for paint pens, although some of the drawings are really complicated. But it also has some designs on black card, and I thought it would be interesting to use the paint pens on the black, because they are meant to be opaque, and we'll be able to see just how opaque they are by colouring in one of these pictures. I was flipping through trying to decide which one to do and which might be the least complicated, because some of them look really difficult. And in the end I decided to go for this page with the butterflies and bugs. It didn't look quite as difficult as some of the other pages, but of course looks can be deceiving. I started out by colouring the flower because I figured that was the easiest thing to do, and straight off the bat these pens lay down beautifully on this paper. That's my absolute favourite thing about the Arrtx pens, is the fact that they're already primed and ready to go. You don't have to shake them or pump the ends. And remember not to do that with these pens, because you will destroy them. The brush nibs are great as well, and you can get quite a bit of detail from them. I found most of the colours to be nicely opaque. A couple of them were a little more translucent than others. But overall, they worked well on the black, and I was quite happy with them. I did most of the picture with just one layer of pen, but I did go over a few areas that were looking a little patchy. So that's usually the way with acrylic paint, it just often needs more than one coat, and because the paint dries and doesn't re-wet, you can go straight over the top of it again and cover any mistakes or any patches and make it look a lot smoother. I think working on the black paper really shows how most of the pen colours are mid-tone to light tone, and there weren't many in the darker tone area. So as I said before, that's just something that I kind of wish they had more of, are the darker ones, but otherwise the colours themselves are nice and vibrant. And I find if I keep them upright all of the time rather than laying them flat, then the paint flows out a lot more easily and consistently, whereas if I have the pens laying on my desk for a while, I do find they start to dry out a little bit. So I put the pens I'm using into a cup so they're sitting upright, and that was just off camera. I have to admit this picture took me ages to do, and I was getting pretty impatient because there was just so much detail and it was taking much longer to film than I had kind of allocated for this. I kept walking away and doing other things, and at one point I thought I wasn't even going to finish the picture, but I really was determined to have a finished piece for this video, and I just wanted to show the pens on black paper because they are incredibly versatile and they will work on a lot of different surfaces. In my previous video I'd showed them being used on wood and also a figurine. So I really wanted to change things up for this video and use them on some different surfaces. I find these pens really handy for my sketchbook, and they're great to go over the top of other water-based paints like watercolours to add some opaque details. They will start to pill up on some papers, but this lovely smooth cardstock, they were fine. There was no issue whatsoever with the paints lifting any of that paper. So it was around this point in the colouring where I'd actually gone out for a walk and pulled a muscle in my back somehow, and it was getting really painful to sit down and I needed to rest it for a couple of days. So this is where I got up to before I decided I just needed to do the rest of it off camera. And I did the rest while reclining on the sofa because it was a lot more comfortable on my back, and I was able to get this done watching TV, and it was actually a lot more fun doing it like that rather than sitting at my desk slaving away over the picture. Here's the finished picture that I've coloured in, and I like how it's turned out. Although some of the colours are just a bit too pale on the black, and I would have liked a bit more contrast with the values, but I think the overall quality of the paint pens is very good. And they all worked well. I had no issues with any of them. The white in this particular set seems more opaque than the white in my previous set, and I was able to get better highlights with it. I enjoyed colouring this one in the end so much that I ended up doing one on white. And you can see that the colours are brighter on the white paper because when they're sitting on the black, some of it does show through because they're not 100% opaque. So they are definitely more vibrant on white. And I ended up outlining some of it in the black pen just to make things stand out from each other because of that fairly limited value range. I really like the colours in this anime set as an overall palette. I do wish I had a gold pen to add a little bit of sparkle to this picture. I could have pulled it out of set A, but I decided to stick with the one box for this video. Maybe I'll add some gold later. I realised as I was working in this book that the pages are perforated and I could pull them out, but I really didn't want to. I just want to keep them all together. So I'm just flipping back and forth here so you can maybe see how the white paper is making the colours a bit brighter than what they are on the black. But it's not a huge difference. They did perform pretty well on the black paper, and I do have to give them credit for being decently opaque. Now I'm going to work on another project, and I found this glass bottle in a charity shop. It has been spray painted in a turquoise blue, and I thought it would be fun to decorate at some point. You can see it's not very well done, and it definitely needs a makeover. That blue had caught my eye in the shop, and I just thought I would rescue it. You can see it is a bit more to the turquoise side in this light. And I just started drawing straight onto it with the pens. I did give it a proper wash though, just to take off any oils from my hands and from the shop. Because it's springtime here and I'd seen a lot of wildflowers in Western Australia, I had flowers on my mind, and I thought I would just draw some little sketchy flowers on this vase, and I'm going to follow a similar design around the entire bottle. I like that it has flat sides. It was so easy to decorate this. And the paint pen sat nicely on top of the spray paint on the bottle, so I had no issues whatsoever. I'm just making this design up out of my own head, but I was just thinking of wildflower meadows with the turquoise colour as kind of a blue sky, although it's not quite the same colour. It's close enough. This was definitely my favourite project in this video. I had so much fun decorating this vase. It was easy to do, and my back was feeling better, so I was able to sit back at my desk again. I had put my music on and I was just chilling out, scribbling on green lines to represent grass, and then these purple blobs are meant to be some sort of lavender flowers. And then I just put in a bunch of other random colours for different sorts of wildflowers. I was thinking of poppies, buttercups and daisies, and generally just going with the flow, randomly placing the flowers, but trying to make a nice looking pattern out of it at the same time. Also to carry the design around from one side of the vase to another, just so that the whole thing flows and you can look at it from any side with a similar sort of design going around the whole thing. I dotted paints on any areas that were scuffed to hide any flaws in the spray paint. This side in particular was quite messy, so I did spend quite a lot of time covering most of it. But I don't mind if it looks a little rustic, and I can always put this side to the back, so it doesn't really matter that much. The paint stuck really well to this bottle. I did actually scratch it a little bit with my fingernail just to see if it would come off, and it took quite a lot of effort to get any of the paint to scrape off. But I was thinking over time the paint might start to chip off, so I am going to cover this with a clear coat afterwards. Here's the gloss varnish that I'm using by Jo Sonia. I made sure to let the whole vase dry properly for a few hours before I put any of this gloss on, because sometimes if you do it too soon, the gloss can lift the wet paint off underneath. And you can see I did cheat a bit and I used the silver pen out of set A for the top of the bottle, but I had originally put green on, as you may have seen, and I just didn't like that, so I thought silver would look a lot better. I'm painting on my gloss coat fairly thickly. It's probably better to paint multiple coats of thinner layers, but I was far too impatient for that. I just want to get it blobbed on and have this project done. This gloss stuff is pretty forgiving anyway, and I went over the whole bottle just to make sure it was nicely even with no drips running down, and here it is once it's dry. I think this turned out so well, and I really loved using the paint pens on this bottle. They were perfect for this project, and they show up nice and opaque. They're so easy to use, and the paint stuck on there really nicely with that extra gloss coat just to bring everything together and make it all look shiny. It's really going to protect the paint as well, and it's going to last much longer than if I didn't coat it. And let's see the vase on display. My husband had put together some Lego flowers, so I thought I'd stick those in there, and it actually looks really cool, so I'm going to keep this out in our dining room. I'm so happy with this decor. It's nice and bright, and I think it's a pretty addition to this area. So I highly recommend these paint pens for decorating figurines and vases like this. But I'm also really curious to know if the paint pens would work directly onto glass, and I found this bottle on the side of the road, I think. I'm dumpster diving again, and I thought it would be fun to colour in the decorations that are already on the glass. And I just really want to know if the paint will stick to something as slick as this glass, because the other vase I just did already had a spray paint coating on it. So let's get started, and yes, they do work on glass, although maybe not quite as well as some other surfaces. I found that the paint was smearing a little more, and I did have to go over with multiple coats because the first layer was just looking really patchy. I decided to outline everything with the black pen, though I'm kind of wishing I'd used the gold pen out of the other set, but I really wanted to stick as much as I could just to this one set, so black outlines it is. And yes, I made a real mess of this vase, I'm not gonna lie. It's not one of my better projects, but I thought I'd include it anyway just so you can see how the pens perform on the glass. Once they dried and I got a second coat onto them, they did look a lot better. The only thing is, because the pens are naturally opaque and matte, they look a little bit funny against the shiny glass, and I didn't end up painting this with the gloss coat, which I might end up doing later because that may end up making it look shinier and more matching to the glass, if that makes sense. I think I'd probably just stick with glass paints or alcohol inks, something that's a little more translucent and glossy when it comes to decorating glass. But these paint pens did work better than I was expecting, and they're sticking quite nicely to it. I haven't managed to scrape any of the paint off the glass yet, but I do think that's probably going to happen, so I may need to get a tiny brush and just paint a bit of gloss over the details of the flowers and other bits that I coloured in. I wasn't so worried about what happened to this vase because I found it for free anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's no good. I think it's turning out okay, and I was liking it the more I went around and decorated the pictures on the vase. I was trying to use as many colours as I could as well, just to decorate each side, and overall this was a fun, if rather messy project. I also cheated a bit again and ended up using the gold on the next panel because it's a Chinese symbol and it just looked like it would be better in gold than in black. Here's the finished vase. It's not going to win any prizes, but I think it's turned out pretty well, and I have no idea what the Chinese symbols say on each side. If you can read those, please let me know what it says. I'm glad I used the gold on that side. I think it looks really good. But you could probably see what I mean when I say that I would love to have the gold and the silver in that anime set as well. That's my personal preference. I just like to use shiny pens. And that's everything I got done today. Here are all the projects I did. I really enjoyed using the pens. They're incredibly versatile and they can be used on all sorts of surfaces. They're excellent quality, the paint lays down nice and smoothly, they have good opacity, and the brushes are a real pleasure to use. They even work on glass, if not very well by comparison to some other things. And I can genuinely say that I have really enjoyed using these Arrtx markers. Yes, I recommend them, but you don't necessarily need to have both boxes. Either one will do the job depending on your preference when it comes to metallic pens or not. This is definitely my favourite of the day, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below if you think these pens are any good, and would you get this set, and what would you use those pens for? And I just want to thank Arrtx for sending me this acrylic marker set. It was really fun to use. I love both boxes, even though some of the pens are the same. I found somewhere to put them on the top of my marker tower. I think they look pretty good up there, and I fully intend on using these a lot more in the future. I think these two boxes is more than enough pens. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful. As always, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and you might like to subscribe for more videos. Here's Arrtx Box Set A, and some Kmart markers as well for comparison. Have a great day, and I'll see you all again really soon in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!